Hi everybody, it's me, and I'm so glad to be here. I'm out again for a pass, and so I thought I'd jump in and see what we were talking about. And I'm hoping to be around a lot more than I am right now. It's just my internet time is kind of limited, which I'm not happy about, but it's okay. I'm going to be out in a few weeks, so yeah. I'm so psyched to do that and to be back and to be living life, and which kind of really sort of transitions nicely into our topic, which is living in the moment and being able to get to a point where you're not so anxious or you're not so preoccupied or distracted that you can't actually live in the moment. And it's really, really unfortunate because a lot of people, especially people with eating disorders or perfectionistic tendencies or mental illness or traumatic history or anything like that, we get caught and we end up spending too much time dwelling in the past, still trying to process it, still trying to, have emotions and thoughts about it, still trying to figure out what went wrong, what didn't, that kind of thing. Or we spend too much time anticipating the future. Usually not in a good way, usually in a way that gets us really, really, really anxious and psyched out and freaked out and that kind of thing. And this of course means that you can't live in the moment because you're too busy thinking about one that's coming or one that passed, and you can't be present in the moment. And it's really, really sad because a lot of people do have trouble with that, and it's something that is really, really difficult to accomplish, but once you get there, you know what it is, and you know how right it feels, and it's just, everything is okay, and everything will be okay, and I am okay with all that. That's going to be like the sort of thought, or the dialogue that goes on in your head when you get to that point. A lot of things in terms of what kind of resources are out there that can help. Marsha Linehan, I'm a big, big advocate for her, she does DBT, she designed the DBT program, and a good chunk of the DBT program is mindfulness. And mindfulness means just that you're just mindful of everything that's going on, and that's very, very helpful in terms of being present, because if you're processing things as you go, then you're in that moment and you're living in that moment rather than for it or in spite of it or anything like that. There's another book that's really, really awesome. It's called The Power of Now. That's definitely something that I would really, really, really recommend. A lot of things too, along like yoga, meditation, they will all help a lot too in terms of being able to ground yourself. That's the main thing, is if we get caught in the past or in the future and we get stuck there, you need to ground yourself with what's going on now. Sometimes that can be as simple as, I'm in this chair, I'm in front of the computer, and I'm talking about mindfulness, and, I'm really enjoying it. That, you can ground yourself that way. Sometimes you need other people to help ground you, or you just have to basically watch your thoughts and respond accordingly, but respond in a way that is positive and in a way that is constructive. In terms of breathing is amazing. Breathing is the best muscle relaxant out there, and it's best relaxant too out there, but especially muscle relaxant. The only way you will be permanently relaxed is if you breathe correctly. Most people out there do not breathe correctly. Most people haven't even a clue what it means to breathe correctly. I was one of those. Breathing means that you're forced to focus on something outside of yourself. And that's a really good way to stay in the moment too, is if you can look outside of yourself and look at your surroundings now, especially if you have a history of trauma, you can remind yourself that you're not back there. You know, you're not about to face an imminently threatening situation. So a lot of times things like textures and smells and tastes and that kind of thing can keep you really grounded. And in a position where when someone tells you to breathe, you don't look at them like you want to kill them because they're so annoying and they don't understand the degree of intensity of pain that you're going through, or B, like they're crazy because you have no idea what they're talking about. There's kind of like a threshold where if you get too anxious, you can't really benefit from breathing. So it's really important to start breathing first. And breathing, like I said, is awesome. What's really, really interesting actually is that most of the population doesn't use their diaphragm to breathe. Most of the population is just using the muscles in their chest. What's really interesting is that babies, like very, very young children, infants, spend most of their time breathing diaphragmatically, so with their diaphragm. And also, in the last sort of 6 to 12 hours of your life, when you're dying, you breathe diaphragmatically too, which is really interesting. Most people in between don't breathe that way unless they're doing it consciously. And it's just, I find that fascinating. But basically, you know you're breathing diaphragmatically when you put one hand on your chest and one hand on your stomach, and you can see each one sort of rise and fall like a teeter-totter. I mean, it's not going to be, you know, a huge difference or anything like that, but it's ever so slight, and you'll know because your stomach rises and falls, and your chest, to a lesser degree, rises and falls too. When you're breathing like that, just keep breathing like that, and it's, you know, physiologically it serves a purpose because all the oxygen gets to go to your cells. None of your cells are working overtime trying to, you know, compensate for the lack of oxygen around. You don't have lactic acid in your system, that kind of, in your muscles and that kind of stuff. It's just, it really, really works. But there's other grounding techniques that you need to use sort of in addition to breathing. A lot of times if you notice the air, I'm breathing the air and it's warm, it's moist, it's dry, whatever. I can feel it go into my nose, through my lungs, and feel it stay there a bit, and then I feel it exhale. And that kind of thing is really, really helpful. And if you can envision it almost like the oxygen is going to your cells and that kind of stuff, and be mindful of what it's doing for your body and how amazing it is, then you benefit even more. If you're just doing it because your therapist tells you to do it, it's not going to work that well. But eventually, I promise you, if you keep at it, you know, it does work extremely well. A lot of times, athletes, when they get that runner's high, or they get that, I call it a swimmer's high, when you get that, it's because they've been forced into breathing aerobically in such an intense way that their bodies just relax and the endorphins get released and that kind of thing. And what you're trying to do when you breathe deeply is create that same situation. And when you're relaxed, you can learn more, you can heal more, you can grow more, you can live more, you can, you know, you're just happier, you're more at peace, you're more balanced. And it's, you know, I'm going to sound like totally crazy and out there, but if you learn anything ever in your life, is how to breathe properly. And yeah, it's okay, don't worry about it if you think I'm crazy. It took me like 5 years to believe it too. And you should hear my therapist start ranting about it. Anyway, so I will talk to you guys later. Hope everything goes well, and hope the holidays go well for everybody. Take care.